Hey guys, this is the week 3 lesson. Sorry about the background noise. I am in the church lobby recording this, so please bear with me. All right, so we're going to be modeling this droid chopper from Star Wars. So yeah, we're going to take some of the skills we've learned so far with polygon modeling, and we're going to start blocking this guy out and getting some of the rough shapes in, and then we'll dial in the detail and we'll do some textures. And we're not going to do all this in this lesson, obviously, but the goal is to take this character through the rest of the course. We're going to do texturing, rendering, animation, all the stuff. All right, and he's nice and dirty and gritty looking, so it'll be a lot of fun getting those textures on there when we do that part. All right, so let's go into Maya. So the first thing we're going to need to do is make a new folder on our disk. So you could do this on your thumb drive or on your hard drive or wherever you want. I'm on a Mac, so it's a little bit different, but basically I'm just going to go documents, intro to CG. Like, this is where I store everything. Summer. I have a week 3 folder. I already have a little chopper folder in there. I'm just going to make a new folder for this video. Let's do chopper lesson. You could call it whatever you want. And we're going to use this folder as our Maya project. So Maya's going to know to look in there for any images or anything we want to use for the project. So now that we have that folder created, we go back to Maya and we go File, and then we go to Set Project, and we want to navigate to that folder on our computer. So here's my chopper lesson folder. So you pick the folder, you don't have to go into it. You just want to pick it and then hit set. And it's going to say, hey, this folder does not contain a project definition file. Please select one of these options. So we're just going to pick the middle one, which is create default workspace. So now we could go online and grab an image, and I'll post this link in the description for the video. So I found this site. It has some really cool images of both sides of this guy. He's got his legs are a little bit different. Where's the other angle? I'm gonna grab this image at first. We'll kind of start on his left side and then continue on to the right side. So I'm going to right click and do save image as, and you want to make sure you go into that folder. So I'm going to go into my chopper lesson folder, and you can see when we created that project, Maya created this workspace.mel file. That's how Maya knows that's a project folder. Yeah, and we just want to save, call this whatever you want. Left side or whatever you want to call it, and save it in there. Now during the class, we downloaded an image that was like a file format that Maya didn't recognize, and we had to do a screen grab and all that weird stuff. This is a JPEG image, so we'll just be able to use this straight in Maya. So let's go back to Maya, and we'll create a polygon plane. So we're going to go create polygon primitives and plane, and it makes a small plane of polygons in the middle, and what we want to do is create a texture to put on this that has that image, so we can use that image as a reference, just a visual reference to have in Maya to look at when we're making our character. So the way we get that, there's a window called the hypershade, and that's where you create all your materials and textures. So we're going to go to up at the top, Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. Click on that. It pops up this crazy looking window here. And what we want to do is, there's different types of materials in Maya. There's some that are smooth looking, there's some that are shiny, there's glowing ones, there's all different types of materials. We want a material that's not going to have any shading or shadowing on it, because we just want to be able to look at that image clearly. So there's one called a surface shader. So if I go into this gray area down here. You can either, yeah, let's go in here, down here in this little section here. And this is like our workspace. I'm gonna right click and go create node. This little window pops up, and what we wanna do is over here you wanna go to Maya, and then if we scroll down here, there should be one called a surface shader. Actually, let's go, we're underneath Maya where it says surface. Click on surface there so that turns blue, and then we have surface shader. It's just like a black circle. Click on that and you'll see that it creates these two little nodes here, and you can use your middle mouse button, and you can also hold down Alt and middle mouse click to kind of navigate this little window, this little workspace. So this is our actual surface shader, and we need to pick that image map to use for the color on that. So if I click on this surface shader, on the right side we have all of our attributes that control that shader, and we have this one called out color. And again, if you click off of it or click on something else, that disappears, but if you click back on it, if you click back on this, then you have that out color right here, and we're just going to click on that little checkered board button right here next to out color, and we are going to click where it says file. It's like the fourth one down from the top, because we want to use that image file. So we're going to pick a file. Now you can see there's more things down here. We have our surface shader, and we have our file that has a connection, like a little wire going into that out color. So if you click on that file node, over here we have like a little space where we can navigate for an image. So we're going to click on this folder right here. Again, if you don't see this, you might be on a different node. So if you need to see that, you click on the file, and then you can click on this little folder. And so that's going to look into, it should look into our chopper lesson. Mine didn't for whatever reason, but there's our chopper left side JPEG. So I'm going to click that and hit open. So now you can see it's trying to map it onto this little thumbnail of a object here. But what we got to do now is kind of move this over a little bit, and then move our camera over a little bit here so we can see our polygon plane. So we can select our polygon plane, just click, left click, draw a little box around it and select it, and then go to where it says surface shader in here. If you click on it, it'll deselect this, so you have to select that, and we're going to right click with our right mouse button on the surface shader and go assign material to viewport selection. So then it turns black, and you're like, well, that's great. What does this do? But if you hit number 6 on the keyboard, we get a little texture view. 5 is shaded. If I tap 5 is shaded, 4 is wireframe, back to 5 is shaded, 6 shows textures. So now we could close the hypershade. Let's go ahead and save our scene. So let's do File, Save Scene As. For some reason it keeps going back to the wrong folder. I want to go up and go to the chopper lesson that I made, and let's call this chopper model 001. Enter, call yours whatever you want. I like to use underscores in the name like that, so it has some space in there. All right, cool. So now we have this guy. I think he's a little compressed. I'm going to look at the image online. Yeah, I just need to stretch that out a little bit. And I'm just going to eyeball this. In CAD programs, there's ways where you could get the aspect ratio correct, but this is not a CAD program. It's just a 3D modeling program and animation program, so we don't have that option to do that. So I'm just going to grab my scale tool, which is R, and just kind of stretch it out till it looks about right, which I think is right about there. Mine's like 1.336 in the X. Cool. And then maybe I'll scale up the whole thing. So I'm going to click in the very middle and just scale it up. Maybe a little, maybe the size of the grid or so, and just so it's not so tiny. And then I want to rotate it, to flip it forward. So I want to rotate it around this red X axis. So I want to go into my channel box. Again, if you click off of it, you won't see any of that there, but if you select it again, you go in the channel box and go to rotate X and type in 90 degrees or just 90, hit enter, and it flips it up. Then I want to grab my move tool, hit W to grab the move tool, and just slide it over to the side, because we're going to be working in the center here, and you know, maybe it's a little too big. Maybe I'll scale it down, something like that. And maybe I'll move it back over this way. Control S to save it. Cool. So now we can actually start modeling this guy, and maybe I'll move it up so his feet are more like on the towards the ground anyway. I mean, this is like a perspective shot of this guy, so it's not straight on from the front. But all right, let's get rolling. Let's start modeling. So let's make his torso. We're gonna start blocking out rough shapes. So we're just gonna make a cylinder, because this is a cylinder shape. So we're gonna create a cylinder, create polygon primitives, cylinder, and instead of using the scale tool and the move tool to move this around, I want to just start moving around the vertices of this, because I want the pivot point and stuff to stay still, and I don't want to have a bunch of like scale values in the channel box, because those could get reset by accident to like 1, let's say, and then it goes back to default. So what I want to do is right click on the cylinder, go to vertex, draw a box around it to select all the vertices, then grab the scale tool. Then I could scale this up and say, okay, is this starting to look like that? I think it is, maybe a little bit more. The proportions are pretty good. We could always change that. You know, just try to eyeball this. That's what I'm doing. And I'm going to move this up, grab the move tool, which is W, and move that up. Now we could create the head. So let's create another cylinder. So go to create, polygon primitives, cylinder. Again, we want to just right away right click on this, go to vertex, draw a box around it, and I'm going to move mine up with a move tool, which is W, and let's use scale, which is R. And the base, Samuel during the class correctly pointed out that the base of the head is ever so slightly wider than the body. So let's do that. So scaled mine up so it's a little bit wider. We could scale it, squish it down, get that height roughly where you want it. Happens to be sitting pretty good above the body. It looks like there's a little bit of a gap. So, you know, you can just adjust that however you like. I'm going to leave mine like that. Then I'm going to kind of rotate my camera, and I want to select just these top vertices. Now, if your camera is at an angle like this and you go to select like that, you'll by accident select some bottom vertices. So I'm going to orient my camera so that these vertices are kind of flat to where I'm looking, and then I could select those without selecting anything on the back. Then I'll grab the scale tool and I will scale this in like that, and it looks pretty good to me. And again, you could always adjust this stuff later, so none of this is set in stone. So let's hit Control S to save, and we'll do the same thing. I want to make this like little rocket shape or whatever this is at the bottom of his torso. So again, I'll go create polygon primitives and go to cylinder, and then straight away we'll go right click, vertex, draw a box to select that. Maybe we'll get the width on this going first, so let's scale this up maybe about like that. Then we'll scale it down on the height, get the height right. Then we'll grab the move tool, which is W, and we'll push that up until it just about intersects with the torso. And then same thing, I want to orient my camera so that these points here are pretty flat. Draw a box and select those, and just in case, I'll just kind of tumble around and make sure I don't have anything else selected by accident. And then I'll grab the scale tool, which is R, and I will scale that in. Let's take a look, and I am happy with that. So we'll hit Control S to save. All right, so the next thing I want to start to do is make this left leg, and he's got this like strange tombstone shape, like this shape here. If we zoom in on it, it's like one continuous piece here. So let's make that piece. All right, there's no like primitive that'll make that shape, so we kind of have to figure out a way to make that. So the way I'm gonna kind of plan this out, what I'm thinking is let me grab my little sketch tool here, change the color to like yellow. So I'm kind of envisioning if we make, and it's still black, it's what's up with that? Do yellow. Alright, there we go. I'm envisioning if we make like a, oh, geez, hang on a second. Make like a cube, right? And I'm drawing this with my mouse, so please excuse the 3-year-old drawing there. And then we take like a cylinder and kind of use that. Let's finish drawing out this cube here, plan of attack, right? And then we have maybe like a cylinder in there as well. This is really a horrible drawing. We could kind of put those two shapes together and get this like tombstone looking shape. So let me get rid of that nastiness there. That's what I'm thinking, right, as my workflow. So let's get like a clean workspace here, because we have these objects here and I don't want to look at them at the moment. So what I could do is grab my arrow tool, which is Q, just draw a box around these shapes. And there's different ways you can hide things. Actually, the way I like to do it is just in the channel box under visibility. Just click on that and hit 0, enter, and it hides them. They still exist in your Maya scene. You can see them here in the outliner where they're kind of grayed out. If I ever wanted to show them again, I would just pick them in the outliner again, go back to the channel box and hit 1 for on, enter, and they come back. I'm going to turn them off, which is 0. Cool, so now we have a clean little workspace. Let's go ahead and make a cylinder. So create polygon primitives cylinder. And I'm not going to worry about the height or anything. I'm just going to leave it as it is. And then I'm going to create a cube. So create polygon primitives cube. And if I hit 4, go to wireframe, you can see it's just buried inside there. And the cylinder is a bit bigger. The cylinder takes up 2 units in width, but the polygon only takes up, the cube only takes up 1 unit in width. If we wanted them to match perfectly, we could, with that cube selected, if I click off of it, you don't see anything here, but if I click back on that cube to select it, we have, and again, I hit number 4 on the keyboard to go into wireframe. So 5 is shaded, 4 is wireframe. Click on in the channel box where it says polygon cube, and we're going to change the width to 2 units. And let's go ahead and make it like a square. So we'll change the depth to 2 units as well. And then we can move this over. So let's before we move it, so what I want to do is I want to create some spans on this cube so we could just move those points out and get this kind of, we're going to use the cylinder as a guide to just place those points. So let's go ahead and count how many sections make up half of this cylinder. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we want 10 divisions in the width on that cube. So click the cube, go to polycube over here on the right, subdivisions width, let's do 10. Enter. Perfect. Now we could click on that cube, right click and go to vertex. Select all those vertices. Let's go back to shaded. I'm going to hit 5 on the keyboard. And let me show you something else that's in Maya that's cool too, which is if you click where it says shading here, there's an option to see wireframe on shaded. So we have shaded, but we could also see the wireframe. And I like to work that way so I can see what's going on with my wireframe. So let's grab the move tool. Well, let's go to the top view. So I'm going to tap my space bar so I can see all 4 views. I'm going to go put my mouse over the top view, and I'm going to tap my space bar again. So now we're looking straight down from the top. And let's go to 4 to see the wireframe. And then drag this down to about there so that this line is right in the middle of this cylinder. I'm going to hit my space bar and put my mouse over the perspective view this time and tap the space bar again. So now we're looking at the perspective view. And it looks like we need to match up the height. Actually, it's not worried about the height too much. Let's go back to the top view. So again, we'll space bar, put the mouse over the top view, space bar again, and here we go. So what we want to do is draw a box on these vertices, just on these inside ones. Like, we're not going to select these corner ones, we're just going to select the inside vertices. We're going to grab our move tool, which is W, and then push them in this direction until they kind of get in line with this point here, and then use my scale tool, which is R, and pull those out like that. And I'm trying to line these points up here, you can see. We'll do the same thing again. We'll select the inner vertices, not the corners. W to move. We're going to move these up right to about even with this point. Grab my scale tool, which is R, and move those out. Scale those out. And then just keep repeating that. So we'll do a little faster now. And I'm getting pretty close, you know. Doesn't have to be rocket surgery, as Samuel said during the class. Cool, so now we got our cube shape with half of it looking like a hemisphere, or like this round shape. So now we can go back to our perspective view. So tap the space bar, put your mouse over the perspective view, tap the space bar again. Pretty much delete that cylinder. So let's go to object mode. So right click, go to object mode, click that cylinder, and let's just blow it away, just delete. Now we want to create that bevel. If I look at that image, let me tap 6 on the keyboard, put that image back. There's this bevel here. We want to create that, and it's a little bit thicker maybe than the side profile here. Let's create that. Oop, I'm tumbling around like a madman. So I'm going to right click, click on this shape, and let's actually name this piece of geometry. So let's, in the top of the channel box, it says P cube 1. That doesn't really mean too much when you look at it, right? So double click that and type in like hip underscore geo for geometry. So hip underscore geo is what I'm naming mine. You can see the name changed here as well in the channel, in the outliner. So now I'm going to right click and go to face, and I basically want to select all these faces up top. A quick way to do that is to kind of turn your camera so we're looking at it from the side. Or actually, you can just select the whole thing so all the faces get selected. Then turn your camera from the side. Now you want to hold down the control key. Hold it down, you see a little minus or subtraction symbol show up next to my mouse. And now I could draw a box around the lower portion of that shape. What that does is it deselects all these other faces, but it leaves these top faces selected. So just tumble around, make sure there's nothing else selected by accident. We just have all these faces here selected. We're going to, let's push these down with the move tool. So hit W for the move tool, push those down so it's maybe a little bit of a thinner shape. And then with those faces still selected, we want to go edit mesh, extrude, and pull that up just a little bit. Maybe something like that. And then we're going to grab our scale tool, so hit R. We're going to scale this in. That's going to give us that cool bevel shape. And this looks about right to me. If I look at the reference, looks like that bottom corner of that bevel is kind of on the same plane as this corner. So what I want to do, and maybe not exactly, but what I'm going to do here is grab my move tool with those faces still selected and kind of drag this forward so that when I look at it from the side, we kind of get a straight line here. This is my interpretation of what's going on with that shape. Maybe we need to scale this, hit scale again and kind of stretch this out a little bit so the bevel is more consistent around, and then maybe a little bit less, and maybe move it backwards a little bit. Looks about right to me. Then what we want to do is select these faces on the front because we want to extrude this out now. So again, I'm just going to draw a big box here, which selects all these extra faces, but then I hold down Control, deselect the faces I don't want, and tumble around and see I have these faces selected, but nothing else is selected. Then we could go ahead and go to Edit Mesh, Extrude. Now, if I were to just drag this out from this point, there's like some divergence in like the points here because there's a slight angle there. So I'm going to push it back pretty close and then just grab the actual move tool, which is W. And when you do that, it allows you to just move things without any weird convergence or divergence of points. So I'm going to move it out a little bit, maybe like to there. And then I want to go to vertex mode and grab this like top corner of vertices right there, just that little row of vertices, and I want to push that down. You can see it's kind of overhanging a little bit, so I'm just going to push it in. Pretty even with the rest of it. You could go to like the side view, hit the space bar and then tap the space bar over here and zoom in. If you wanted to get super nitty gritty with it, and there's a little bit of an angle on there. That's pretty good. Tap the space bar again, go back to perspective, tap the space bar. So now we need to scale these out in the width like that. Let's take a look at the reference too. So it looks like this shape here is actually narrower than the rest of this thing, so maybe I'll grab all those vertices. Again, angle my camera so I can easily draw a box around them like that and scale them in. I think that looks about right to me. Now we want to extrude these faces out to, sorry, I'm all over the place here, to create this like shaft section, whatever you want to call this part here on the inside. So I will right click, go to face, and mine are already selected, but if I click off of that, the way I would get those selected again is, come to the side here, draw a box around this area, and then just hold down Control and deselect what I don't want selected. So now I'm left with these faces. Let's go to Edit Mesh Extrude. And again, I'm just going to switch to my Move tool, which is W, and pull that out. And make that maybe a little bit less, shorter. And I'm going to hit Control S to save. And that's kind of where we left off in the class. So I'm going to leave that here. It's about a half hour into the video. And yeah, I'll see you guys at the next lesson. Thanks.